I have fallen in love with American names, the sharp, gaunt names that never get fat, the snakeskin titles of mining claims, the plumed war bonnet of Medicine Hat and Tucson and Deadwood and Lost Mule Flat. Seine and Piave are, but the spoon bowl metal is thin and worn. There are English counties like hunting tunes played on the keys of a postboy's horn, but I will remember where I was born. I will fall in love with a Salem tree and a rawhide quirt from Santa Cruz. I will get me a bottle of Boston Sea and a Dixie crooner to sing me blues. I am tired of loving a foreign muse. I have lived in this old house in Nyack for over 37 years. Charlie and I planted those trees when I was a young bride. From my garden, the Hudson River looks much the same as it did when Henry Hudson explored it, or when Washington Irving graced it with legends. I feel close to our country's past here, as well as to my own, and that's a comfortable feeling, because awareness of America was as much a part of my childhood as oatmeal for breakfast. And the American theater has shaped my whole life. Since the 20th century and I arrived together, that goes back a long way. America has changed, the American theater has changed, and heaven knows I've changed in all that time. But one thing is certain. I've been right smack in the middle of it all, both as a person and as an actress. It has been very gratifying, Barry, to find, after all these years, that they do appreciate all that I have tried to do for them, for their good, and for this dear country of ours. We have been so near together today, they and I. All my dear people of England and Scotland and Wales and Ireland, and the dear colonies and India. Such loyalty, such devotion, it's most extraordinary, most extraordinary. Will you tell Mr. Chamberlain how very much I approve all the arrangements he has made for the proper representation of all parts of my empire in the procession? Everything was in perfect order. It was very gratifying, very gratifying. Well, I must go and rest now, or I shall not be able to take my place at dinner, and that would never do. Oh, Bertie, oh. You were in front, and I don't think you saw this. It happened right at Hyde Park corner. There was a great crowd there, you know. And, of course, it never should have happened, but it didn't matter, really. A great group of very rough-looking men broke right through the lines of the police and the troops guarding the route. And I heard one of them say as they ran alongside the carriage, "Go it, old girl, you've done it well." Of course, they were very unsuitable, the words, but very gratifying. And oh, I hope it's true. I hope it's true. Hark. They are still cheering. Oh, Albert, Albert, if only you could have been here. What makes an actress? The talent you're born with, the skills you learn, the experiences that shape your understanding and your spirit. Since my early experiences were all as American as the 4th of July, it seemed ironic to me that my roles should have been, so many of them, queens, and that Victoria Regina in Laurence Housemans' play should be probably my most famous role. Here I am when the spirit was new, already greedy for sight and sounds. In Washington, D.C., my hometown, the sights and sounds were red, white, and blue. From the time I was tiny, Father and I took the trolley on Sundays to the Washington Monument, where John Philip Sousa led his Marine Corps band. Sunday by Sunday, those sounds became part of my pulse beat. The big event every 4 years was the inaugural parade. My parents and some of their friends would chip in to rent a front room in one of the sleazy hotels on Pennsylvania Avenue near the Capitol, and we'd all squeeze into the window to watch Teddy or W.H. Taft or Woodrow Wilson make his progress to the White House. Joy in America, in the land itself as well as in its heritage, was a sparkling enthusiasm with us all, which I've never outgrown. If Sousa marches were my lullaby, certainly the theater was my kindergarten. Nobody ever read books much in my family, or at all in those days. They went to shows. That was boom time for the American theater, and everything that was successful on Broadway went out on the road, sometimes 4 and 5 companies of them, and every time a good artist or a good play appeared at the National Theater in Washington, you could always find my mother or her mother, my Granny Hayes, having borrowed from the household funds. They would be standing in line there outside of the gallery entrance, waiting for the doors to open and the grand rush to the peanut gallery. Sometimes they asked me to come along, and when I look back on it, I believe it was because I was very tiny and very nimble, and I could run ahead of everybody up the 3 flights of steps and then fling myself full length across about 3 seats and save them. I didn't get behind the footlights until I was 6. Oh my, all that wasted time. A friend of my mother's, who was very stage-struck, my mother, he invited her to let me play Prince Charles in a royal family at a local stock company. Stock companies dotted the country in those days, and their actors became idols of the community, often stayed on for years. They did new plays each week, and often, well, every week, all year long. It was rather a rough schedule, but it certainly developed actors, and it developed audiences, too. There were parts for me at the Columbia Stock Company, and by that time, I was established in Miss Minnie Hawk's dancing classes. There wasn't much to show off with me. At 3, as a shamrock, I was a disaster, and I didn't fare much better as a little Dutch girl. And finally, by the time I was 6, Miss Hawks gave up and suggested that I would be better in singing or miming. And so my mother took up the suggestion and decided to have me do an imitation of Annabelle Whitford doing the Gibson Bathing Girl, which she had done in the new Ziegfeld Follies. Now, how do you account for the magic of fate? That year, the great producer and comedian Lou Fields happened to be playing in Washington at that time, and he came over to the Belasco Theater to pick up his mail. And he heard some applause and laughter coming and music coming from the theater, and he went in to see what it was all about. How do you say to a young actress who asks you how to get started in the theater, how do you tell her? Do you say, now you must be sure to be in the right place at the right time? At the very moment that I stepped out to do the Gibson Bathing Girl. Mr. Fields walked in and stood at the back of the Belasco Theater. Mr. Fields left after my little number, but not before he said to the theater manager, if that child's parents ever want to put her on the stage, send her to me. Well, it took my mother and me 2 long years to decide that I was ready for New York. And happily, when he was confronted by my little Gibson Bathing Girl picture, Mr. Fields hired me at once. Oh, I so well remembered that fateful song. Why do they call me the Gibson girl, Gibson girl, Gibson girl? What is the matter with Mr. Ibsen, Mr. Ibsen? Why, Dana Gibson, wear a blank expression and a monumental curl. Walk with a bend in your back and they'll call you the Gibson girl. The child obviously had talent. It was an optimistic time to join the American theater. Oh, it was booming. There were 41 theaters in New York, legitimate theaters, and about six vaudeville theaters. The plays weren't very good. They were mediocre, either very sentimental or melodramatic, but they were great vehicles for great stars. Here I am as little Mimi, my first part on Broadway, in Lou Field's production of Old Dutch, score by Victor Herbert. We opened in the fall of 1909 at the Herald Square Theater. Victor Herbert himself was conducting in the pit. Once again, I was Destiny's child. The 4 years spent under the watchful eyes of Mr. Fields in 4 different shows threw one into the company of the great comics of the day. They were a troubled lot, often quite tense, because comedy's a serious business, full of traps and dangers. You have to be on the alert every minute, lest the audience catch you trying to make them laugh. I had grown during those 4 years from a wee, cuddly thing into what Mr. Fields described to us as the awkward age. So we parted, I broken-hearted, and I went home to D.C. feeling like a has-been at 13. But Mother's local stock company friend was there, waiting to exploit the local talent that had made good on Broadway. I played Lord Fauntleroy, Prince and the Pauper, a handful of great children's roles, and I became the Shirley Temple of Washington, D.C. And then again, fate took a hand. The ingenue of the stock company was an exquisite English actress named Jessie Glendinning, whom I was said to resemble. A year later, that chance resemblance brought me back to Broadway. A telegram ordered, "Bring Helen Hayes Brown to Charles Frohman's office in the Empire Theater for an important part in a play with John Drew." In 1914, Charles Frohman and the Empire Theater were the highest to which an actress could aspire. Frohman had the supreme stable of stars: Maud Adams, Billie Burke, William Gillette, Ethel Barrymore, her uncle John Drew. John Drew was not a great actor, but the greatest of stars. I had moved from the best of the American musical theater to the best of the dramatic stage. Opening night was the most glamorous I can remember, but unfortunately, The Prodigal Husband was not a good play. And Mr. Drew closed the show in Washington to deliver me home. Now I face the problem of looking too young for my age. The parts were scarce for a 17-year-old girl who looked 10. But fortunately, somebody brought me to the attention of George C. Tyler, who happened to be looking for a Pollyanna. Now, that was a role that spanned the ages from 10 to 17. So he put me in the Western Road Company. And after that, he took an interest in me, put me in Booth Tarkington's adaptation of his wonderful book, Penrod. Here I am as the love interest at last. And so, to dear Brutus, on loan to the Frohman Company, and a chance to play with the great William Gillette. It was as Margaret in this play that I became a permanent member of the American theater and not just a drop-in visitor. With what joy I went to the theater every night. William Gillette was an actor with great style and presence who also had subtlety and insight. His every line reading was a lesson. On the 23rd of December, 1918, the opening night of Dear Brutus at the Empire Theater, I was the great new discovery. Of course, I had discovered myself 10 years ago when I first opened with Lou Fields, but it took the critics that long to catch up with me. As I sparkled into Mr. Gillette's dressing room the second night with the evidence in my hand, he thundered at me. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever read another review. Then he patiently explained to me. A cruel review can break your heart. A good review can hurt a performance if the critic has described its virtues in too great detail. It makes you self-conscious. And then he reassured me that if there was any constructive criticism in a review, I'd hear about it at once from the director. I believe that that advice from William Gillette has had a lot to do with my endurance in the theater. Because above all, an actress has to keep her courage up. We're all victims of fears and self-doubts. We have to move cautiously through a career to protect the fragile feelings and prides that we have, so as not to shatter the wall of our sensitivity. The next season, Mr. Tyler had plans of his own for me. He had commissioned Booth Tarkington to write a new comedy, Clarence, for the young Alfred Lunt, and I was to play Cora. It was just the right diversion for a war-weary public. When it opened, that was in September of 1919, and it was acclaimed as the greatest American comedy of all time. Oddly enough, Clarence dealt with one of today's most pressing problems, how to handle your kids. Bobby Wheeler, too, upset his family by the way he dressed, and Cora was a defiant flapper daughter. Here we all are, Alfred Lunt, Helen Hayes, and Glenn Hunter. But for this perfect piece of Americana, we are going to do better than photographs. I want you to meet 3 young actors from the American Theater who are going to do a short scene from Clarence for us. Now, of course, you know Orson Bean.
Hi, Helen.
He's going to play... Hello, Orson. He's going to play Alfred Lunt's part, Clarence. And Oliver Conant, he's going to play Bobby, which was played by Glenn Hunter. And my darling Jennifer Harmon is going to play my part, which was Cora. So now, shall we start? Are we all ready?
From the entrance?
From Cora's entrance, fine.
Oh, if 2 people ever made me tired, it's Papa and Miss Penny, Puritans.
Oh, darling, I'm going to be a pest. I have to stop you. But you see, this was 1919, and in those days, an ingenue never walked. This would do all right for today. What you're doing is perfect. But she didn't walk. She flitted. Honestly, I used to get home sometimes from the dress rehearsals, and I would be black and blue from flitting on on the stage, unfamiliar with the set and everything.
Pieces of furniture.
I would fall on my face a lot. But anyway, you have to flit, and then they never sat. They perched.
Perched.
Wait a minute, it's quicker for...
Yeah, you show me.
Let me just do it. Oh, heaven help me, I hope I can. You see. And then when you want to move, oops. When you want to sit, it's like this. You see, don't be afraid you'll overdo, because what you think is overdoing, that's just where we began.
Oh, all right.
Clarence had liver trouble. There's a line in the script. Now, did he set a certain way because of the liver trouble?
Well, I wouldn't know whether it was liver trouble. I just know that he was nervous because he was going to be interviewed for a job.
Right.
And by Cora's father. And he just sat with his, sort of scrunched
and he was
up
a soldier,
out of nervousness, yeah.
I'll play it like Alfred Lunt.
Start again? Oh, if 2 people ever made me tired, it's Papa and Miss Penny, Puritans.
Well, they can't have been keeping you too long. Huh. After what you've been up to.
They're not through with me. They're consulting, inventing the discipline they'll have to put me through. Narrow-minded.
You've been after that old grass-witter.
He's not old.
That's it. It's the old grass-witter.
Excuse me. I'm concentrating on you because I remember me so well.
No, please do.
You don't, you have to be higher and more shrill because they didn't speak in that day. They squeaked or they chirped. Isn't it awful? You know, it's true that we had conventions like the French ingenue was very piquant and very sophisticated, and the British ingenue, you know, she was very horsey, right, of tweedy, Tennyson one type, you know, and they strode on the stage, and then we flitted, and we perched, and we chirped.
The American ingenue chirp.
Oh, yes. The purr didn't come in until about the 1930s with Margaret Sullivan.
Yeah.
That began the purr.
It's a lot.
What?
Hush up. Very high.
Hush up. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Let's see. He's not old.
Hold on.
He's one of the most perfect characters that ever came into my life.
Good.
What I want to know, is there any harm in that? Oh, no. I leave it to you. Is there any, I leave it to you if grass widowers aren't just as perfect as the other kind of widowers.
Yeah, I guess they are just about as perfect.
Of course, I did go out motoring with him, and I did dine at his country club with him and dance there till 12 o'clock. And then Miss Penny came and got us. But what I want to know, is there any harm in that?
What a vile confession.
You hush up! Of course, I did say I was going to spend the evening with a girlfriend, and then Miss Penny found out. But what I want to know, if you were my father, would you go into 35 fits over a thing like that?
Well, I don't think quite that many, no.
You just ought to see them in there. They act like judges of the extreme court of the United States in Washington. And what I'm afraid of is they'll never let me see him again.
Oh, you ought to be drowned. I ain't never heard so disgusting.
Oh, hush up! Hush up! Oh, hush up! Oh, hush up! She deliberately comes to Papa with this because she knows that Mama's only our stepmother and hasn't any idea of discipline. And the way she goes on in there, you ought to just hear her about being responsible for the shaping of my character because she's my governess. She'll get Papa so prejudiced against me.
She hasn't told half about her. Doesn't that make you want to hate women sometimes?
Oh, I don't know. I think she's very attractive. Of course, she's not my sister.
Listen, you were in the army and all of that. What would you do if you were a girl and in a fix like that?
Well, I don't know what I'd do if I were a girl and in a fix like that. I don't even know what I'd do if I were a girl.
Oh, well, anyway, I think you're awfully nice and sympathetic.
That was pretty racy stuff in those days, wasn't it? You were just adorable, thank you. You made me remember Alfred.
Oh, that's nice to say.
It was charming.
Say, thank heaven that acting style's behind us.
Yes, I know. I hated it even then, but I was stuck with it for many a part. Yes, I moved without losing a smidgen of my cuteness from flapper to sub-deb. That was in a play made from the stories, the Babb stories of Mary Roberts Reinhardt. Yes, I remember that was when George C. Tyler, the star maker, decided over my mother's protest and my terror that it was time for my name to be put up in lights. 3 feet high. 20 years old, and there I was, a star. A squeaky star. Yeah, I wasn't ready for it. I had a kind of natural, youthful ebullience, and I had a gift for knowing how things should be by instinct. And I'd hit the right approach once in a while, or most of the time, but then I didn't know how to hold on to it. And, oh dear, people began to worry about me. Even the discoverers were afraid they'd picked a lemon. But then one day, Ina Clare and Ruth Chatterton took counsel, and they straightened me out. They told me that I had a great natural gift, but that I didn't know anything about acting technique.
Oh, technique. Now, Miss Hayes, that's such a confusing word to most actors. Well, what does it mean to you?
I know it frightens people. Well, I like best Lynn Fontaine's definition of it. When asked that question, she said, you speak clearly and a little louder than usual, and don't bump into anybody.
So in other words, what you're saying then, in a way, is that acting is technique coupled with that extra special something.
An actress must learn to communicate through her voice, her face, her body, everything that makes up her instrument, which is her being. Also, she has to learn courage. I harp on that a lot because it takes a great deal of courage. It takes audacity to go out on a stage and give a performance. Really?
Yes.
You see, the very spotlight that we perhaps we dream about or crave, that makes us pay in turn, because every flaw, every mistake, every mishap is picked up by those bright lights and shown forth to the audience. And we have to learn how to feel that great confidence in ourselves. You know, that's really what star quality is, I believe. It's that conviction within yourself and within the audience, too, when you walk on the stage, that you are master of the situation. And that's technique. It takes technique to do that.
So what did you have to do? Obviously, you had to train for a long time.
Oh, well, of course. I took dancing and mime, and voice, fencing. I took boxing.
Boxing?
Well, that was for footwork. As a new star, I set about learning the business of acting. The theater was coming of age in the 20s, and so was I. Today, I have two good friends with me here who were vitally involved in the excitement that transformed the theater of those days. Armina Marshall, wife of the founder of the Theater Guild, and Marc Connelly, author of Beggar on Horseback and the great Green Pastures, the Pulitzer Prize play. Well, it was a wonderful period. Way back in 2021, my mother and I lived in Greenwich Village, and when we went to see Washington Square plays, our more regular theater going was when we had seats, season seats for the Provincetown Playhouse for their Sunday night dress rehearsal before the formal opening on McDougal Street. And we went to see S.S. Glencairn plays, and we went to see the Hairy Ape and the great, Emperor Jones. Oh, such excitement. And here was something so overwhelming was being born into the American theater. We were getting a literature.
The Theater Guild started in 1920.
Yes, I remember. I used to go to see the original, the parent of the Theater Guild, which was the Washington Square.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. And then we were at that time off Broadway at the Garrick Theater. Do you remember, on 35th Street? Mm-hmm. And it was then, after that we moved uptown, and you opened the Theater Guild. Theater.
Yes,
it was Cleopatra. It was the spring of 25.
Season Cleopatra, yes.
And it was a very auspicious opening, let us say. And you were chosen to be the star of Caesar and Cleopatra. Mm-hmm. And you...
Don't forget to tell how I got chosen. I wanted to play that role so badly. I loved it, and I cherished it close to my heart. And it was my one and only sincere ambition that I've ever had in the theater. Was the one role I really wanted to play very much. And when I heard that you were going to do it at the Theater Guild, I joined the parade of young actresses. I was a star then. My name was in lights, and yet I joined the parade who went down to audition. That was the first of my queens. But I knew, even as I was struggling with that role, that perhaps because I wanted it too much, I just never realized the full depth of that part. I looked upon it as just a cute flapper, which it was, actually. Shaw had written it that way, but he left it to the actress to supply something that was deeper and more interesting. And I didn't know enough to supply that then. But you know, I felt a failure in it, and I couldn't live with myself until 10 years later. I went over across this county to Suffern, and I played that part in a barn, a summer theater barn, and I was good. In the 20s and 1921, oh, Mark, that's where you and George Kaufman burst upon the scene. That was your first play together, wasn't it? With Dulcie? Yep. Dulcie? Oh, I remember so well.
For a little girl who'd been playing ingenues with Lorette Taylor. That was a little girl named Lynn Fontanne.
Oh, and you would never tell us. I was so mystified.
And she was right good. And then George Kaufman and I began to write a lot of plays together, including one for another young actress who was already a star. It was Miss Hayes.
Do you ever know why Mr. Tyler asked you to write to the ladies for me? I think you should know after all these years, dear. Now, that's almost a good 50. That I went into such a sulk and such a mope because Lynn Fontanne got Dulcie written for her, and I was playing the most horrible plays. Oh, but Mark, what you did in my life, I'll never get over. You changed my life.
By letting you meet people?
That's right.
That's right.
Well, now, he made it possible for me to meet one Charles MacArthur. I was walking up Fifth Avenue one day and bumped into him, and he scooped me up, took me along with him to Nisa McMean's. You know, Nisa had
coming out of Saks.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And Nisa had a salon, and every afternoon you could find the great wits of New York and all the highly creative people. And off in a corner I sat, not knowing how in the world to talk to all these awesome people. And this beautiful young man came over, and he was eating out of a little peanut, you know, one of those little paper peanut, salted peanut bags. And he looked down at me, and I couldn't even smile. I could just stare and wish, you know, all I wanted was a way to get out of there. And he finally said, "Would you like a peanut?" And I said, "Thank you." And he poured a few in my hand and looked at them and said, "I wish they were emeralds." And oh, I was in love at that moment because I'd never had a pretty speech made to me before that I remember. And from that moment on, he was stage center in my life. After I had realized that ambition and had played Cleopatra, I had a long, lean year. I didn't get another engagement the whole next year. I think I lost a little prestige with that performance. People asked me if I ever had a struggle in the theater. I believe it was all concentrated in that one year. And one day, William A. Brady called me and asked me if I would be in a revival of What Every Woman Knows. After all those cute flappers, that turned out to be the one. It didn't run 4 weeks. It ran 46 at the Bijou. And then quite a while on the road. And that was the way people began to think of me seriously. It's funny, the mystery of destiny.
That part was the beginning of getting really wonderful parts offered to you, wasn't it, Helen?
Yes. What Every Woman Knows, I think, earned me the role of Miss Norma in Coquette. I think that was when George Abbott got confidence in me. And here is George Abbott, who was the director and co-author of Coquette. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to just try to see if I can mention a few. Now, let's see. Boys from Syracuse, Three Men on a Horse, Pal Joey, Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, Call Me Madam.
How about some acting credits? You know, I've been a leading man to both you girls.
I remember you in Xander the Great with Alice Brady. He was so romantic.
Women were swooning over him.
Yeah.
And they have been ever since, as a matter of fact, George, you know.
True, true.
Yes.
Well, Coquette was one of the best. Coquette was the one very serious play I did. And so when people tell me, you know, "Oh, you only do farces, don't you?" You see, I wish they could be there to see the weeping women come out of that theater.
Yes.
Remember how they cried?
Oh, my, yes. I had a peephole to watch them. Isn't it terrible? After I'd gone off to commit suicide, I used to run around and watch them. Oh, I'm ashamed to say it. But I wasn't really involved deeply within myself in Coquette because I have a terrible secret. I never liked Miss Norma Besant very much, and it haunted me again later through The Glass Menagerie, because I always used to say that Amanda in The Glass Menagerie was Miss Norma
Growing up.
25 years later. They seemed about the same kind of unrealistic, silly women living in fantasy.
Did you ever see her play The Glass Menagerie?
No.
Well,
I saw her play Coquette.
yes.
He made me play Coquette.
I saw it when I was
He created
young.
that performance, bless his heart.
Well, you know,
he was such a good director.
Helen, that was kind of a daring play in its time. I think how tepid it would be now. But I know the audience almost gasped when you said to your friend, you said, I'm going to have a baby.
Oh, wasn't it terrible?
If they had awards in those days, you and I would have each had one.
Thank you, sir. I consider that a real award. But, of course, all that success that was going on then, it had its drawbacks, you know. I wanted so much to get married to Charlie, and he had, he needed a new success. He'd only had one before, 4 or 5 years before that, and he needed another hit before he'd get hitched to the star. And so it was kind of hard. I was desperately unhappy waiting for him to get a hit too, and then of course it came along in the front page.
Oh, the front page was the biggest hit of the next season of 1928.
That's right, and we were still playing Coquette in New York, and do you remember that you and Jed Harris allowed me to take that night off? You closed Coquette for one night. Weren't we all sentimental in those days? So that I could go to see Charlie's play open, and I sat up in the balcony, and Charlie and Ben Hecht they just didn't have the nerve to come inside the theater. They were sitting out on a fire escape outside, and after each scene, I was to come out and tell them how things were going. And the first act went along well, and the response was good, but then something like lightning came barreling on the stage, and it was Dorothy Stickney as Molly Malloy. And she played that scene with such electricity, such magic, that when she finally went off, they wouldn't stop applauding. I thought that she'd, you know, that old saying, she'd stop the show. They wouldn't let the play go on. But there was no question after that that the front page was a big hit, and that I was going to get my man. He would marry me then. We were married on August 17th, 1928. And in July 1929, I ended the tour of Coquette because our daughter Mary was on the way. Charlie brought me to Nyack. He had grown up here, the son of a minister at the old missionary college. We put down roots in this house that Charlie dubbed Pretty Penny. Charlie MacArthur met a shy, overprotected girl who had already lingered too long in childhood. He released me from my cocoon and sent me flying out into life. I've always been grateful to many people for developing me as an actress. My mother, lots of directors and producers and other actors. But it was Charlie that helped me make the big step. Training can teach you technique, but it takes living to give you a wider scope. I once heard a person described as having a mind that was a storehouse of trivia. Your true actor's mind is like that. I don't know whether you're born with it or whether you learn it, but the true actor is a compulsive collector, a collector of bits and pieces, a gesture, a word here, a hesitation of speech, a change of tone, a subtle change, his own as well as others. All of these are clues to character or evidences of emotion. But oh, how he uses those bits and pieces. Dramatic changes that were taking place in my life were gentle pokes compared to the changes that were rocking the country and the theater. The stock market crash And the talking pictures dealt disastrous blows. By 33, half the theaters in New York were closed, the road tours were few, and the local stock companies and vaudeville were dead. In those desperate days, much of the top talent went to Hollywood. I didn't want to be in films. I didn't want to go to Hollywood at all. I was stage struck, but my Charlie and Ben Hecht were there. They were the top scenarists of the day. After the success of The Front Page, they'd gone out and swept all before them. And finally, Charlie had Irving Thalberg put me under personal contract so that we could be a family again. I went to Hollywood to be with my man, and for no other reason. Charlie went still further and wrote The Sin of Madelon Claudet for me. He wrote every line, every piece of business to show me to the best advantage. It earned me the Academy Award.
Photographer has arrived, madame.
Oh, all right.
I'll be right down. Where are the toys? In the carriage? That's fine. And Marie, you won't mention where I'm going to the Count.
Oh, madame.
Well, just you don't. To anybody.
I remember well the stored-up impression that shaped this characterization. Years before, Mother and I were on a boat to Europe with Madame Curie and her daughter. Each day we watched that frail old lady, eyes blinking in the sunlight from under a black skimmer, as she was marched around the deck for her exercise. Sometimes a piece of literature helps me to find myself in a role. When Ernest Hemingway's great novel, A Farewell to Arms, was being filmed, I honestly couldn't imagine how I was going to suggest the kind of attraction that would make Gary Cooper as Frederick fall so desperately in love with me. I hadn't the beauty or the sex appeal. And then a line from Conrad's Arrow of Gold whistled into my head. She had the terrible gift of intimacy. This was the key I used to Catherine's character.
And you're nice, too.
No.
Why not?
No, don't.
Yeah.
No, please. I'm sorry. Did I hurt you?
It's all right.
Oh, I'm dreadfully sorry, really. I just couldn't bear the nurse's evening off aspect of it.
It's quite all right. I don't mind at all.
Poor man.
You see, I've been leading a funny sort of life. Besides, you're so very beautiful.
You don't have to talk a lot of nonsense. I said I'm sorry. We could get along.
Couldn't we?
You're sweet.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you're a dear. I'd be very glad to have you kiss me now, if you don't mind.
The third of my favorite films during that period was Aerosmith by Sinclair Lewis with Ronald Colman.
Martin's giving up a great career as a research scientist to be a country doctor so he can support a wife. And you all ought to just get out on your knees and appreciate him and stop scrapping. Will you give me a cigarette, please, Martin?
Leora.
You ain't learned to smoke cigarettes. Yes, I have. And now you can scream at me for a while and lay off Martin.
Yet to give us Both Your Houses, High Tor, and Winterset, finished Mary of Scotland for me. I questioned his choice because Mary Stuart was 6 feet tall, but Max said I was his concept of Mary, and I was not to fuzz up his vision. So I thought about it and decided that if 6-foot Mary could think herself so small and feminine that she could be called Birdie by her lover, I could think myself tall, and that's what I did. Well, the play ran successfully for 2 years, so it must have worked. Today, I'm going to have to think myself young. because I want to play one of my favorite scenes of my past roles. The confrontation between Mary and Queen Elizabeth in prison. It'll be a challenge, but I always enjoy that. And it will give me an opportunity to play with one of the finest young actresses of this generation, Zoe Caldwell. I have seen but a poor likeness, and yet I believe this is Elizabeth.
I am Elizabeth.
I have been here a long while already, it seems, so if it's your policy to keep me, shut me up, I can argue no more. No, I beg now. There is one I love in the North. You know that. And my life's there, my throne's there, my name to be defended. And I must lie here, darkened from news and from the sun, lie here impaled on a brain's agony, wondering sometime if I wear what they said me, a carrion thing in my desires. Can you understand this? I speak it too brokenly to be understood, but as you are a woman and I am, and our brightness falls soon enough at best, let me go. Let me have my life once more, and my dear health of mind again. For I rot away in my mind here in what I think of myself. Some death tinge falls over one in prisons.
It will grow worse, not better. I've known strong men shut up alone for years. It's not their hair that grows white only. They sicken within and scourge themselves. If you would think like a queen, this is no place for you. The brain taints here until all desires are alike. Be advised. Sign the abdication.
Stay now a moment. I begin to glimpse behind this basilisk mask of yours. It was this you wanted from the first.
That's what I wanted.
All this while, some evils touched my life at every turn to cripple what I do. And now, why now, looking on you, I see it incarnate before me.
It has not been my use to speak much or spend my time.
How could I have been mistaken in you for
You were not
an
mistaken.
instant?
I'm all women I must be. One's a young girl, young and harrowed as you are, who could weep to see you here. And one's a bitterness at what I've lost and can never have. And one's a basilisk you saw. The last stands guard, and I obey it. Lady, you came to Scotland a fixed and subtle enemy, more dangerous to me than you've ever known. This could not be borne, and I set myself to cull you out and down you are.
And you take my life and love to avoid this threat.
Nay, keep your life and your love too. The lords have brought a parchment for you to sign. Sign it and live.
I will not.
I can wait.
And will not, because you play to lose. This trespass against God's right will be known. The nations will know it. Mine and yours, they will see you as I see you and pull you down.
Child, I've studied this gambit before I play it. Each year I will send this paper to you. Not signing, you will step from one cell to another. Step lower always, until you reach the last, forgotten. Forgotten among men, forgotten among causes. A wraith that cries to fallen gods in a generation that's lost your name.
And suppose indeed you won within our lifetime, still looking down from the heavens and up from men around us. God's spies that watch the fall of great and little, they will find you out. I will wait for that. Wait longer than a life, till men and the times unscroll you.
Child, are you gulled by the histories that men write and are never true? I am careful of my name as you are, for this day and longer. It's not what happens that matters. It's not even what happens that's true, but what men believe to have happened. They'll believe the worst of you, the best of me. And it'll be true. For you and me. I've seen to this.
And And still I win. This evil track you've brought me on, cover it. Let it never be believed that a woman was a fiend. Oh yes, cover it deep and heap my infamy over it, lest men peer and catch sight of you as you wear and are. For myself, I know you to be an eater of dust. Still I win. I have been a woman. I have loved as a woman loves, lost as a woman loses. I have borne a son, and he will rule Scotland and England. You have no heir. A devil has no children.
My God, you shall suffer for this.
Yes.
But slowly.
That I can do. A woman can do that.
Once more I ask you, and patiently, give up your throne.
No, devil. My pride is stronger than yours, and my heart beats blood such as yours has never known. And in this dungeon I win, here, alone.
Good night, then.
Aye, good night. Seaton.
You will not see your maids again, I think. It is said they bring you news from the north.
I thank you for all kindness. Victoria Regina, the last and the most demanding of my queens. It was in 1935 that she first began to dominate my life. This engraving, signed by the Queen herself, was given to me by the cast and the crew after our 100th performance. We were destined to play more than 1,500 others. I became so identified in people's minds with the role that sometimes people would lose their heads and curtsy on meeting me. The challenge of this role was to progress, scene by scene, from a young princess at the beginning of the play to an old woman at the end. Of course, the makeup was a terribly important thing to work out. I once confided to Charles Lawton that I really didn't feel that my then tiny face could ever be made to resemble the full moon and the sagging cheeks of the old queen. And Charles, who was a master of makeup, character makeup, immediately remembered the device he'd used in his great film, Henry VIII. He said, you put some apple in both cheeks. Well, that was fine, easy as pie. But what Charles and I had forgotten was that a scene on the screen lasts 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and our Balmoral scene lasted 20 minutes. So I tried this for the first time at the dress rehearsal, and about halfway through, the apple disintegrated, and I swallowed it, leaving my queen quite sunken at the end of this scene. Well, in New York, a very famous makeup man came to help me and design a makeup. It took him 3/4 of an hour, and when I explained that the entr'acte would be 12 minutes, 5 of which I'd use for changing costume, the 7 for the makeup, he just threw up his hands and left me to my own devices. And that was that I slapped on some red grease paint to make the flush, and I put some shadows down here and over the eyes, and some white over the lids to make them droopy, and some white in my brows and on my lashes. And then I put some cotton in my cheeks, plumpers, and I played it. Well, it worked. It was simple. It's important in acting to keep things simple. I sometimes say that I act by the process of elimination. I put everything in at first so that I won't be in danger of missing something exceptionally good. And then during rehearsals, and sometimes even in the first weeks of playing a part, I eliminate and refine This is Queen Victoria when she first ascended the throne, and these are some of her ladies in waiting. Gilbert Miller, the producer, gave me those when I was playing. Queen Victoria, as written by Houseman in his play, was not a great queen. She wasn't a great intellectual. She was simply a woman who did the best she could. And that's the most excellent thing you can say of anyone. It's why I loved playing her. And I think it's why the people who came to see the play loved her too. After 4 years of Victoria Regina, when I put the play away for good, our son James came into our lives. Oh, those were glorious years. There were Charlie and me together and the children and meaningful work and great success. Well, the 30s and the terrible Depression found their voice in some very important new playwrights, Lillian Hellman, Sidney Kingsley, Clifford Odets, William Saroyan. World War II and the Nazi danger got on everybody's mind, absorbed all our thinking. Lillian Hellman wrote Watch on the Rhine, and Bob Sherwood had the Lunts in There Shall Be No Night. And I, for the first time in my life, did a play, not because I actually loved it, but because it had a message. It was Candle in the Wind by Maxwell Anderson. I should have listened to Charlie when he said, "You can't win a war with a bad play." Charlie went off to the army, but before he left, he said to me, "Helen, if you're still hankering to do a play that will stiffen people's backbones, why don't you do a play about a time when America was in a hell of a fix and we got ourselves out of it?" Well, that's how I came to The Civil War and to Harriet by Florence Ryerson and Colin Clements. Well, dear Bob Whitehead, it's very kind of you and generous of you to give your time to sit here and talk with me about the theater of the 40s and the 50s. I don't know anybody during those decades who did more to give the theater stature, and especially the American theater.
Well, I can't ask for anything more than you just said, Helen. But I was busy anyway, and a lot of the time I was busy, as a matter of fact, was involved with you. And I look back on that with a great deal of pleasure and pride.
Thank you.
In fact, we did 3 plays together.
That's right.
The Mary Chase play.
Mrs. McThing,
yes. We did a Thornton Wilder together, The Skin of Our Teeth. And we did the Eugene O'Neill play, A Touch the Poet.
And they were all 3 very exciting firsts for me. O'Neill's whole purpose in that play was to keep that woman, Nora, a background figure until the last few minutes.
That's
and
true.
I said I was going to upset the balance of the play by being on there and being watched.
No, as a matter of fact, you made the balance of the play, because the fact that it needed a big actress in the part, so that the fact that she was in the background remained a very potent element in the play and throughout the play, because finally, in the end of the play, she takes it over. It's one of those parts that had to have an actress of real size. Anyway, at the time, I finally talked you into doing it, and I was
glad you
grateful for
won.
that. And when you talk about my having a part in the theater of the 40s and the 50s, you had a much bigger part.
Oh, but
I don't
think
mean
of all
to turn
those
this
things that
into,
you did of Arthur Miller. Goodness, what you have done about our theater.
Well.
And Orpheus Descending. I was at your opening night of that, and that was a fine play.
As a matter of fact, I was at your opening night of Tennessee's Glass Menagerie in London. It seems that Lorette Taylor handed the part to you, Helen, and you're handing it on to somebody else now.
Yes, I am, because I saw Maureen Stapleton play it in a recent revival.
She's marvelous.
Yes, she is.
Sure.
And I've asked her. She's a very dear friend, and I have the same kind of warm admiration for her that I had in my early days for Lorette Taylor. I think they're both extraordinary actresses and beings. And so I've asked Maureen to do the telephone scene when Amanda's trying to sell, desperately
but
trying to sell.
But I thought you played that magnificently anyway.
Well, thank you very much. So
well, let's see if Maureen can make it then.
Ida Scott, this is Amanda Wingfield. We missed you at the DAR last Monday. Oh, first, I want to know, how's your sinus condition? Oh, it's come back? Well, you're just a Christian martyr. That's what you are. You're a Christian martyr. Listen, I was just going through my little red book, and I saw that your subscription to the Companion's about to expire. Just when that wonderful new serial by Bessie May Harp is starting. It's the first thing she's written since Honeymoon for Three. Now, that was unusual, wasn't it? Ida, this one's even lovelier. It's all about the horse he said on Long Island, and this debutante is thrown from a horse while taking him over the jumps at the regatta. And her spine is injured, and the only surgeon in the entire world that can keep her from being completely paralyzed is the man she's engaged to be married to. And he's tall, and he's blonde, and he's handsome. That's unusual, too, isn't it? Oh, of course, he's not perfect. He has a weakness. He has the most terrible weakness in the entire world. He just drinks too much. Oh, honey, no, don't let him burn. You run, take a look in the oven. I'll hold on. Why, that woman. You know what she did? She hung up on me.
Oh, thank you, Maureen. Oh, bless your heart.
Hi.
Now, aren't you going to say that was good?
It was marvelous.
Oh.
And, listen, Maureen, really,
He's got an attitude, and he's just going to...
She's getting better each time she does it. Maureen, you should have seen Helen Hayes play it.
Isn't he... you know, honestly, I'd like to see you do that over and over again.
Until I get it right.
Now, look, say, Maureen, I want to tell you something.
What?
Before you came into the act here, I was talking to Helen about the fact that we'd done 3 shows together in the 50s. and they were all quite marvelously successful. And almost the same years you and I did shows. So we did 3 shows.
Yes.
And they were almost all of them complete failures.
All of them. All 3.
You know, I was so fascinated with watching you because I know that you are the method actress. I know that it was, how many years, 10?
I think about 10.
That you worked with the studio, at the studio.
Yeah, about 10.
And it stood you in such stead there in the Glass Menagerie when I saw you do it on the stage. And you know, I tried the 3rd time that I did it, that I was going into rehearsal with it. First I did it in London with John Gielgud, then I did it with Alan Schneider at the City Center to save the ballet or something. They needed the money, so I went in and did the Glass Menagerie for a couple of weeks. And then I was going to do it on that tour for the State Department in Europe. So I thought I have to get a fresh push at this. I don't know. I had to approach it differently. So I went and worked with Lee Strasberg. I asked him if he would, and he was most grateful because he said, I didn't like what you did at the City Center. Now I'm going to show you how to work, not thinking about how you're doing a thing, but what you're doing. Now you must throw it all away and let it all come from the truth that's within you. Your truth will show you how. But you know, I got absolutely lost. I couldn't find my own truth to start with, and when there were hints that maybe I had unearthed it, I didn't know what to do with it. I was absolutely lost because a whole lifetime had been spent learning to act another way. Now you have it, but to perfection.
I don't mean to totally disagree with you, but you don't act a different way. I mean, it's like the method, or so-called method, gets abused and misused. You can't go out on the stage and just feel, because there's nothing to rely on there. You have no base or no foundation.
Well,
people don't want to see you just feel all over the place.
That's startling coming from you, because I always thought of you as the theater of today, and I'm a theater of yesterday, where I rely on technique. And that's under me like a firm platform when I go on the stage. You know, sometimes I've been told by co-workers and by directors, you know, that sort of don't look now, but your technique is showing. It's apt to peek out of my performances sometimes, and that's when I'm not very good and not very sure of myself.
Technique is not a dirty word.
Well,
You
it
sound like
became
it's some
one.
wicked
And
thing.
I thought it became a sort of one in the 50s. But I know one thing that happened. We almost lost a whole generation of fine actors who got scared to death because they didn't know anything to rely upon. They had a natural talent. They had found the truth within them, which is a part of the method, but they didn't know enough about how to communicate this night after night. And I think that we're just never going to have any more actors whose careers can endure as mine has all these years until we go back to discipline and a study in depth and with great tirelessness of our craft, and above all, not within ourselves, but outside of ourselves, with the world around us.
Absolutely. I agree with that. What I wanted to say simply is that the method was only another technique in any case. It was simply a technique for trying to find what compelled a play underneath the written text. What compels Shakespeare is so totally within the text, and so completely in the text, both in terms of the rhythm and the poetic values, and it's so completely expressed that you certainly cannot start by looking underneath it all. You better get the text right. A lot of the method just threw the text out and said, what is compelling this? What is motivating it? Now, certainly some of our plays, which were more, I suppose, influenced by some of the later plays in the 19th century, the Chekhov and plays of that kind, which do deal largely with subtext, were somehow helped by that kind of a study. Even O'Neill to some extent, because O'Neill was very subjective and psychological. But when you played O'Neill with the play that I produced, I didn't notice that you had to go doing any great psychological research. You found it. You found Nora, and your brilliance was unforgettable, Helen. And you may have thought your technique was showing. It was showing, and so is the whole human being that you played, and I can't tell you how much it meant to me and to the audience in general.
Jennifer Harmon and I are going to do a short scene from O'Neill's A Touch of the Poet. In this play, O'Neill asserts his final truth, that life's ultimate dignity is love. It doesn't matter whether the object is worthy or not. It's the capacity for love that's important. Bad cess to the rheumatism. It has me destroyed this morning.
I've told you 100 times to see the doctor.
We've no money for doctors. They're bad luck anyway. They bring death with them. Your father will be down soon. I've nice fresh eggs for his breakfast.
He won't want them.
You mean he'd have dropped too much taken last night? Well, small blame to him.
Last night? What night hasn't he?
Don't be hard on him. I had a note from Nealon about his bill. He says we have to settle by the end of the week or we'll get no more groceries.
Well, why didn't you pay him the end of last week? You told me you had the money set aside.
So I did. But Dickinson was tormenting your father about his feed bill for the mare.
I might have known. The mare comes first and she takes the food out of our mouths. The grand gentleman must have his thoroughbred to prance around on.
Oh, now where's the harm? It's his greatest pride. He'd be heartbroken if he had to sell her.
Oh, yes, I know well he cares more for a horse than for us.
Don't say that. He has a great love for you, even if you do be provoking him all the time.
A great love for me. Ah, God pity your mother.
And don't put on the brogue now. You know how he hates to hear you. And I do, too. There's no excuse not to cure yourself. Didn't he send you to school so you could learn to talk like a gentleman's daughter?
If he did, I wasn't there for long.
'Twas you insisted on leaving.
Because if he hadn't the pride and love for you not to live on, you slaving your heart out, I had that pride and love.
I know, Akushla, I know.
We can't afford a waitress. But he can afford a thoroughbred mare to prance around on and show himself off. He can afford a barkeep. When if he had any decency, he'd do his part and tend the bar himself.
Him? A gentleman, 10 bar.
A gentleman? Oh, it's all right for the two of us out of our own pride to pretend to the world we believe that lie. But it's crazy for you to pretend to me.
That's no lie. He is a gentleman. Wasn't he born rich in a castle on a grand estate and educated in college? And wasn't he an officer in the Duke of Wellington's army?
All right, Mother. You can humor his craziness. But he'll never make me pretend to him I don't know the truth.
Don't talk as if you hated him. You ought to be ashamed.
I do hate him for the way he treats you. I heard him again last night raking up the past and blaming his ruin on his having to marry you.
It was the drink talking, not him.
It's you ought to be ashamed for not having more pride. You bear his insults as meek as a lamb. You keep on slaving for him when it's that that's made you old before your time. You can't much longer, I tell you. He's getting worse. You're gonna have to leave him.
I'll never. Now hold your pride.
You'd leave him today if you had any pride.
I've pride in my love for him. I've loved him since the day I first set eyes on him, and I'll love him till the day I die. God pity him. He's had to live all his life alone in the hell of pride. It's little you know of love, and you never will. For there's the same devil of pride in you that's in him, and it'll keep you from ever giving all of yourself. And that's what love is.
I could give all of myself if I wanted to.
If wanted to. Vex, it shows how little you know of love when you prate about ifs and want-tos. It's when you don't give a thought for all the ifs and want-tos in the world. It's when, if all the fires of hell was between you, you'd walk through them gladly to be with him and sing with joy at your own burning, if only his kiss was on your mouth. That's love. And I'm proud I've known the great sorrow and joy of it.
You're a strange woman, Mother. And a grand one.
As we came to the 60s in the theater, the television had siphoned off more of our audience, and the high cost of production discouraged anything but the tried and true. It was a really undistinguished period on the whole. I turned to new challenges, new audiences. In 1961, Armina Marshall and Laurence Langner put together the Theater Guild American Repertory Company, and we toured in 14 countries, a couple of dozen cities for the State Department in Europe. I appeared in Thornton Wilder's Skin of Our Teeth and in The Glass Menagerie. Everywhere we went, we found the interest in American playwrights voracious. I saw Tennessee William's Sweet Bird of Youth played in Serbian. I saw Albees' Zoo Story in Turkish. Brilliant production, too. And we were met with standing ovations wherever we went. It was very proud-making, I must say. Later that year, we took the plays to South America, played 11 countries there. And then in 1965, Romney Brent and I went to the Orient, also for the State Department. This time, we played Hong Kong, Malaysia, the Philippines, Japan, Korea. It was there that I hitched up with the 8th Army, and I did some performances with 5 very talented soldier actors whose lives had been interrupted for 2 years by service in Korea. We played the hardship camps, and we toured around in a Jeep, and we did scenes from Arthur Miller and Edward Albees and Williams and Wilder. Oh, it was cold in that Jeep at 10 degrees. Well, anyway, there was a wonderful young soldier actor that played with me in Albees' American Dream, a scene. Today, I want to do that scene again because it's a favorite of mine, with a fine young actor, Steve McHattie. People don't say goodbye to old people because they think they'll frighten them. Lordy, if they only knew how awful hello sounds, or my, you're looking chipper, they wouldn't say those things either. Truth is, there isn't much you could say to old people that doesn't sound terrible.
Hi.
Come on up.
Hello there.
Oh, my. Are you the van man?
The what?
The van man. The van man. Have you come to take me away?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, that daughter of mine, that jelly of a husband of hers. Did they finally call the van people to come and get me and take me away? Well, they could have gotten rid of me long ago, if that's the way they feel. They should have set me up in business. They should have... I could have been in the fur business. I could have been a singer. But no, they wanted me around because they can't listen to each other. And old people are very good at listening. Old people don't like to talk. When you get old, you can't talk to people because they snap at you. When you get so old, they talk to you that way. That's why you get to become deaf, you see, so you won't hear people talking to you that way. And that's why you go and hide under the covers in a soft bed so you won't feel the whole house shaking from people talking to you that way. And that's why old people die eventually, because people talk to them that way. Well, I'm ready to go.
I tell you, I'm not the van man. I'm just looking for odd jobs.
Well, aren't you something?
Oh, thank you.
You don't sound enthusiastic.
Well, I'm used to it.
Yep. If I was 150 years younger, I could go for you myself.
Yes, I imagine so.
Will you look at those muscles?
Yes, they're quite good, aren't they?
Boy, they sure are. They natural?
Well, the basic structure was there, but I've done some work, too. You know, in a gym.
Oh? Well, I bet you have. You know, you ought to be in the movies. Right up there on the silver screen. Yep, you ought to try out for the movies. I guess you've heard that before, though, huh?
Yes, I have.
Well, you ought to try out for them, the movies.
Well, actually, I may have a career there yet. I've lived out on the West Coast almost all my life. I've met a few people who might be able to help me. I'm not in too much of a hurry, though. I'm almost as young as I look.
Well, that's nice. Oh, will you look at that face?
Yes, it's quite good, isn't it? Clean cut, Midwest farm boy type. Almost insultingly good looking in a typically American way. Good profile, straight nose, honest eyes, a wonderful smile.
Yep. Boy, do you know what you are? You're the American dream. That's what you are. All those people out there, they don't know what they're talking about. You are the American dream.
Thanks.
Well, since you're not the van man, what are you doing here,
I'm looking for work.
What kind of work?
Oh, almost anything. Almost anything that pays, that is. I'll do almost anything for money.
Will you? Well, I wonder if there's anything you could do around here.
There might be. It looked to be a likely house.
Did it? Always looked rather unlikely to me, but then maybe you know better than I.
I can sense these things.
There might be something you could do around here. Stay there now. Don't come too close.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't mean I'd mind. I don't know whether I'd mind or not, but it wouldn't look good. It'd look awful.
Yes, I suppose so.
Stay there. Let me concentrate now. What could you do?
Anything, if there's money in it. Do you have any money?
Money? Oh, there's more money in this house than you'd know what to do with.
I'm not so sure.
Maybe not. Besides, I have money of my own.
You have?
Sure. Old people often have lots of money. More often than most people expect. Come here. I want to whisper to you. No, not too close.
I'm sorry.
Oh, come on. It's all right, dear. Look, did you ever hear about that great big baking contest they run? You know, where all those ladies go out in a big barn and bake away?
I'm not sure.
Not so close. Well, I don't care whether you heard about it or not. The important thing is that I won it. First prize last year. It was in all the papers. Well, not under my own name, because I took a nom de boulanger. I call myself Uncle Henry.
Did you?
Why not? I didn't see why not. I look just as much like an old man as I look like an old woman. You don't want to know what I called it? What I won with?
What did you call it?
I called it Uncle Henry's Day-Old Cake.
It's a very nice name.
It was very simple, really. I just went out and bought a store-bought cake, and I kept it around for a while, and then I slipped it in unbeknownst to anybody. Simple.
You're a very resourceful person.
Pioneer stock.
Is all this true? Do you expect me to believe all this?
I don't care whether you believe it or not. It doesn't make any difference to me. All I know is that Uncle Henry's Day-Old Cake won me 25,000 smackarolas.
$25,000?
On the loggerhead. Now, how do you like them apples? Jennifer Harmon and I met in 1966 when I joined the APA Phoenix Repertory Company. Repertory companies and regional theater and off-Broadway theater had really burgeoned in those 60s. And we looked to them more than we did even to the commercial theater for fine new playwrights and especially for fine revivals of good American and any kind of plays.
Well, you know, when you did Ma Fisher for us in George Kelly's The Show-Off, what did we finally discover? That it was as long as Hamlet?
That's right. Somebody told me that it was the longest role ever written for a woman in the English language. And it's ironic, isn't it, that I gave up stardom, yearning for these small, easy roles, and then I ended going on a very difficult and rigorous tour with The Show-Off, with that longest of roles.
Miss Hayes, you had a good time.
I did. I loved it. I loved it because I felt I'd come home. You know, I belonged from the beginning in comedy. Tears are not for me. I always wanted to have a go at all the fine comedy writers of America. And it was wonderful to play George Kelly and The Front Page and Harvey. Oh, I've really enjoyed these last years, ever since I got away from commercial theater and could choose my plays. You see, I just came like a homing pigeon to comedy. Very grateful for it.
And I suppose, too, you were back. Well, you were back in your home America. I mean, you were doing American plays.
That's what I said. I was doing American plays. You know, every career, whatever its height or its duration, has to pursue a central idea. I was pulled away from mine a few times, and I knew it. I wasn't fooled, though. I was happy doing Shakespeare and Shaw and Barry and Ennui. But I felt, well, as Stephen Benet did. Remember in our opening verse, he said, "I am tired of loving a foreign muse." Well, I was happy in those plays, but the American muse has always commanded my greatest fervor. They tell me it isn't fair to talk about your life without covering every facet of it. So, this is a portrait of our daughter, Mary. She posed for it in the last year of her life as a surprise for her father and me. My Charlie never rallied from her loss, and he went a few years later. There's only one thing I want to say about that time and nothing more. The tragedies that happened to public figures always seem greater than those that happen to everyone else, I guess because they're more noticeable. But it was only by coming close to the very many people who had suffered the same tragedies in silence and with little fuss that I was able to find my way out of my own suffering and back into the stream of life again. My son James has grown up to be an actor, of all things. And now I have 2 grandchildren to grow with, a younger Charlie and Mary. It's a bit wearing to travel all those years at such a clip. They streak by like the countryside past a speeding train. with some snatches sharp on the retina and others blurred. As for today's terrain, well, surely the American landscape is somewhat out of focus. I find it easier to locate myself. I would describe myself as deeply involved on the side of life. Here in Nyack, the house is full of loving memories. The trees that Charlie and I planted are taller than when he left them. And the garden seems to have a lien on my time and my energy and my fingernails. But most of all, there is work. And though I've retired umpteen times, I find it so exhausting I always come back to the theater. Rehearsals leave me bone-weary, but my nature demands order, and I find it only in art. The theater offers me form and meaning as life never has. And then, of course, there's always the hope that the next time I will meet the challenge fully and finally satisfy myself. And so I go on. I guess you'd say I have durability. And my faith goes on, too, in the durability of the American muse and the American dream. One of my favorite authors, Lillian Smith, wrote, "Only the poet can look beyond the detail at the total picture. Only the poet can feel the courage beyond fear. Only he can grasp the splinters and make a new whole that does not yet exist." What more can I say, except to borrow from one of our great American playwrights and wish for us all a touch of the poet.